Some theories simply aim to explain and interpret the world. Others seek to criticise and change it, or at least understand the prospects for change. So, should theory be fundamentally concerned with criticism of the prevailing structures and processes of international relations? Should it be guided by a desire to transform international relations? And should it bring normative judgment to bear on the practices and theories of international relations? If you answered yes to these three questions, you share critical theory's view about the purpose of studying international relations. Well, what is critical theory? The term is used in different ways, but it originated during the interwar years with a group of German social theorists and philosophers known as the Frankfurt School. Their intellectual influences included Marxism, but extended to Max Weber, Sigmund Freud, and Friedrich Nietzsche. Critical theory became synonymous with a form of philosophical critique that questioned forms of domination built into modern social, political, and economic life. Science and technology have colonised all aspects of modern life. The Enlightenment's promise to liberate humankind from various forms of unfreedom and injustice through science and rationality have failed, creating structures of domination that dull the critical and ethical faculties and degrade the human condition. Critical theory's purpose was twofold: enlightenment and emancipation. It sought not just to shed light on forms of domination, but to dismantle them so as to liberate humanity. This style of thought has been developed most fully in IR by Andrew Linklater. In a series of major books, he's combined Kant's cosmopolitan commitment to ethical universalism and Marx's social theory of industrial capitalism to understand how practices of inclusion and exclusion have shaped political community in the modern international system. Critical theory has since become a label in IR for a range of theories, including Marxism, feminism and postcolonialism, that challenge the traditional theories of realism and liberalism. These traditional or problem-solving theories, as Robert Cox called them, tend to serve dominant ideological priorities. They take the prevailing order of social and power relations as the given framework for action. Focused more on high politics, they seek to ensure the continued functioning of the existing system. Critical theory, on the other hand, asks how the prevailing order of social and power relations was constructed and how it might be transformed into a just world order. It doesn't just diagnose the world's ills, it seeks to arouse the will to do something. Critical theories refuse to take for granted the prevailing power structures of international relations. Marshalling different concepts, they seek to expose forms of domination, exclusion and inequality. They reject the Great Divide by revealing the constitutive relationship between high and low politics. Karl Marx was born in Trier, Germany. He studied law and philosophy at university, then turned his attention to political economy after working as a journalist. Marx himself had almost nothing to say about international relations as the study of states, anarchy and war. He doesn't use the same concepts and language as realists and liberals, nor does he focus on the same actors. He offers a very different perspective on the subject through a method described as historical materialism. Historical materialism shares with realism the view that politics is a struggle for power, but it occurs under very different conditions and results in a different kind of struggle. For Marxists, politics occurs under conditions of industrial capitalism, a system of social power now global in scope. As Marx and Engels explained in the Communist Manifesto of 1848, through the rapid improvement in the means of production, capitalism expanded over the whole surface of the globe, settling everywhere, establishing connections everywhere, compelling all nations on pain of extinction to adopt the bourgeois mode of production. The struggle for power revolves around the accumulation of private property and profit. This generates conflict between labour and capital, which pits the proletariat or working class against the bourgeoisie or ruling class who own and control the means of production. The asymmetry of power relations leads to exploitation, alienation and estrangement. That's why, for Marx, the history of all hitherto existing society is the history of class struggles. Historical materialists believe this is as true between states as it is within them. Classes and the conflicts they generate cross state boundaries to become internationalised. The internationalisation of the ruling class through organisations like the OECD, the World Economic Forum, the European Union and the G8, for example, are considered by Marxists to be forums to facilitate the global coordination of capital through states. But the ruling classes don't always coordinate their activities. As Lenin observed in his account of imperialism, international rivalry between the capitalist classes can also lead to predatory behaviour and imperial war. A contemporary of Lenin, the Italian Marxist Antonio Gramsci, argued that hegemonic forms of state and state system were a result of the complex mix of coercion and consent. Institutions such as schools, churches and sporting organisations helped to tame social forces, as did concessions made by the ruling class to some demands issuing from the working class. For Marxists, the state and state system, therefore, are reflections of an underlying capitalist world economy. It's this entwinement of high and low politics, of the state and class, that Marxism analyses, and which accounts for the failure of traditional theories to perceive global social structures of conflict, domination and inequality.